Welcome to Not Alone with Melissa-Sue Methven. Today I had it on my heart to just go on here and talk about grief. I woke up and God put it on my heart that my perspective on grief. And I actually brought my journal where I journaled this morning after my morning routine. And I wanted to share with you what I felt grief was for me. And maybe that'll resonate with you, or maybe that'll start making some sense in your life, how grief showed up in your life. Because I know everyone will grieve. And grief could be the loss of someone. The grief could be loss of a relationship, a divorce, a separation. Grief could be grieving your pet that had died. It could be grief of losing a career that you thought you loved or you got fired. There's all types of grief. Grieving something that you've, started doing and can't do anymore, like the grief of maybe you used to be a basketball player, you used to be a football player, and you no longer can play that for whatever reason. You will go through a grieving process. So I feel that grief now is God gives us this gift of grief because we are ready to step into a new self, like a new direction, our soul purpose. So he knows that we are ready for this step. So there's grief, but only if we allow ourselves to step into that grief. Oftentimes, it's so scary to step into that grief, even though we know maybe, when I lost my husband, to feel all that pain was so hard. And yes, in the beginning, I was so busy dealing with the dental practice, the litigation, the lawsuit that we were in with judges and lawyers, my children. It was just so overwhelming. So I was busy. So I don't really feel that I had the time to grieve right away. And oftentimes we avoid it. We lose someone and it's so painful that we find ways to numb that pain and we're not ready to feel it. And maybe that's okay. We're just not quite ready. But we'll keep spiraling, not in alignment, until we go within to grieve and create that space. I know once I had moved from Wasilla, Alaska to Arizona, I felt, okay, now I finally can have space to grieve. My kids were gone back to school. I was in a position where I didn't have to work 5 days a week. I still had the dental practice running and from afar. And it allowed me that space to really do the work. And I'm so grateful for that. And that allowed me to just look within, feel, and got uncomfortable. I found the right counselors, a therapist. I found a wonderful place to go cold plunging and do breath work. I started getting curious. Of how did other people grieve in a healthy way? What were they doing that helped them through the darkest days of their lives? And I found a pattern of them saying that they sat in prayer, met with God, they journaled, they spent time doing breath work, cold plunging, and being in community, just talking, seeking help. And so I started incorporating those things in my life and started seeing a shift, seeing that every time I let go and cried, I left more room to allow joy in and happiness. It just removed some of the kind of clutter that I had and just intensity. The overwhelming is because I had not expressed any of that grief. And I was also realized that I was holding a lot of people's grief. When you lose someone by suicide, a lot of times people have so many questions and you hold a lot of people's grief. And I had to really take the space to sit in my own grief instead of, of course I had to help my kids through it, and I still do, but I had to find some space where I can get away and sit in it alone without any distractions. So I truly feel that grief is now when we are ready for a big shift. Now, sometimes we may know a relationship is no longer good in alignment with us. But stepping into getting out of that relationship is so uncomfortable. And there's so much sadness because that's going to be a grief. We know we're going to miss that person, even if we know it may not be the right person, and that's confusing. But once we step into it, it becomes clear. We can just start feeling that staying in this relationship is not the right way. And oftentimes we have a hard time removing ourselves because that's safe. And where is that coming from? Well, maybe it's coming from past traumas as a young child where we didn't have a safe parent, or we didn't have in not having that, having safety around us is what's comfortable, and stepping into the unknown is really getting uncomfortable, and we have to sit in a lot of pain. But I truly feel in my heart, that's how you grow. That's how you'll become more in alignment again for your life path and your soul purpose. Because you'll start noticing if you don't step into that uncomfortable grief, certain signs will, little whispers, I call them. There'll be little quiet whispers at first. Maybe small things will happen. You'll get sick a little bit more often, or maybe your kids keep getting sick, or maybe in your house, the garage door all of a sudden doesn't work, or you get a leak in the house and you wonder, like, what is going on? Why does this keep happening? Those are all little whispers that we need to get back in alignment. We're spiraling. And so that's my reflection about grief, that we need to see it in a different way and kind of almost not get excited about it, but like, okay, I'm given this challenge, but I've got to take it on the right way, the healthy way. We've got to grieve the healthy way and be ready to do all the work, because what's beyond that grief is growth and a new life, your purpose. Like, you're going to continue on where it's more in alignment, more happiness. Think of it as it's going to open the door to more happiness, but we can't get there until we dig down into the darkness of the soul. And that's just what I've seen, patterns in my life, where too much of anything along the way will get you not in harmony. So if there's too much social media, too much partying, too much alcohol, too much of anything is not keeping you in harmony. Too much food, too much alcohol, too much of anything. Just find a balance.